Hi, this is Jacob Fink. I'm recording a video on Albert Bandura for Dr. Drake's educational psychology class at Dixie State University. Dr. Bandura created social cognitive theory. He was born in 1925 in a small town in Canada. He started as a biology major, but then after taking a general elective credit in psychology, he decided to change his major. I have that in common with him. I started as a chemistry major, and after taking my first biology class, I decided to change my major to biology. So Dr. Bandura and I both say that it's a good idea to stay flexible and be willing to follow your passion once you've started your college career. He is currently a professor emeritus at Stanford University. He was hired there in 1953, and except for a short break, he has worked there continuously from then until now. He's still alive. He is widely recognized as the most influential living psychologist. So our textbook says that he is the father of social learning theory. The reason why textbooks say that is because he wrote a book in 1977 called Social Learning Theory. In the 1980s, he changed that theory to social cognitive theory. And the reason he did that was because people kept putting him in the behaviorist chapter. And he didn't like that. And so he changed his theory to social cognitive theory in an effort to get people to stop putting him in the behaviorist chapter. If you look at where he's at in our textbook, it didn't work because he's in the behaviors chapter of our textbook. There are three aspects of social cognitive theory that I wanted to talk about. One was observational learning, and that was detailed in his 1977 book. The most famous experiment from that is called the Bobo doll experiment, and I have a picture of it here. In this experiment, a child is put in a room and sat at a desk and told that the corner where there are a bunch of different playthings and toys and just a play setting is for an adult to come in and play if they want to. And so then an adult would come in, and some of the children would be male and some of them would be female, and they would get a mixture of male and female adults. The children were about age 4, average age 4, so young children. And they would sit in their desk, and the adults would come in there, and some of the adults would choose to play with this Bobo doll and be very aggressive. They would be physically aggressive, they would be verbally aggressive, and they would basically abuse this doll. Once the adults were done doing what they were going to do, the child was taken to another room. And in that room was the same play setting, lots of different toys, lots of different options. And in this experiment, the children who watched an adult be aggressive towards a Bobo doll were also aggressive towards a Bobo doll, and in the same way. And so this experiment, with this experiment, Bandura was able to show that children will sometimes model adults' behavior even though there isn't any incentive system built in. Even without reinforcement or punishment, they will simply copy what they see an attractive model do. And so his observational learning system works in 4 phases. The attention phase is where the student is made to pay attention to a model that they look up to. So that's the attention phase. The retention phase is where that model will demonstrate a behavior, and the students will have an opportunity to practice that. In the reproduction phase, students further practice that, and they receive some assessment on how well they're doing. And in the motivational phase, that imitation can be reinforced. So the second aspect of social cognitive learning I want to talk about is vicarious learning. So in my picture here, there's a girl who is choosing to study really hard because of a friend of hers that got a new doll for being first in learning that. And so vicarious reinforcement or vicarious learning is any time that you learn something or imitate a behavior based on somebody else's reinforced behavior. So students will copy behavior that they see reinforced in others, and this can occur even if that student's behavior is never directly reinforced. The example that I came across that I like is casino advertisements. They will show somebody winning. Most people that watch those advertisements and see people winning know that their chance of winning at the casino is less than their chance of losing at the casino. But yet you see that advertisement, you see that person winning, and it makes you feel good, and it makes people come to the casino and gamble. Self-regulated learning is the other aspect of social cognitive theory that I wanted to talk about. This concept of self-efficacy was detailed in a paper that he wrote in 1977. And in this, he explains that students observe their own behavior and they judge their own behavior against their own standards, and they also reinforce or punish themselves according to how well they do against those standards. And so this is another kind of departure from behaviorism. This is saying that sometimes we provide our own reinforcement. We internalize that, and we go through that whole behaviorist process sometimes in ourselves without any external reward. And if you've never seen the sketches of Chris Farley interviewing famous people, it's a great example of self-regulation. Albert Bandura sees himself as somebody who conceptualized behavioral terms like conditioning and reinforcement as operating through a cognitive process. And this is how he feels about being in the behaviorist chapter of our textbook. He says, authors of psychological texts continue to mischaracterize my approach as rooted in behaviorism. He really sees himself as somebody who merges the old cognitive theories and the old behaviorist theories into something that is more accurate. So his contributions to psychology were to merge behaviorism and psychoanalysis and cognitive theories together under what he calls that cognitive learning. And he was part of a revolution, probably the most significant factor in a cognitive revolution, which kind of merged these theories in the 1960s. And he incorporated this concept of self-efficacy into the existing behaviorism models. Critics of Bandura say that he is weak on explaining the nature side of nature versus nurture, especially that his theories lack explanation for behavior that arises without apparent modeling. If we come up with our own model, if we come up with our own methods of learning, he didn't really address that. And those are my references.